welcome back to my channel, Sugar on Nissiah, and I'm back with another video. Today's video, as you can see from the title, I am going to be talking to you guys about what I do, which is phlebotomy. I talk about it a lot on my channel, and I would love to bring more. I know a lot of you guys have been asking me to share, like, how do I like it, like how much money, you know, is it a career to go into, like my pros and cons and things like that. And so that's exactly what I'm going to share with you guys today. But before we get started, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and let's get into it. Alrighty guys, so basically what is phlebotomy? Phlebotomy is the process of drawing blood, taking blood. So if you ever went to the doctors, you know, the same old vein thing where they stick a needle in and they draw blood. That's exactly what a phlebotomist does, pretty much all day, every day. There's so many different tests out there in order to perform that job. You know what I'm trying to say? It's a good career. It's like a simple task, but it's very demanding, especially because we are going through COVID right now. There's a lot of phlebotomy needed. So projecting how far, you know, or how much they're gonna need as far as phlebotomy in the near future, I would say the need for it will definitely go up. There's a need for it right now, so you know, it kind of goes hand in hand with that. But before we get into, like, you know, if you should or if you shouldn't, let's just go ahead and continue, like, to explain like phlebotomy. So like so that's basically what it is. There's two types of job titles, technically, what they can go by. A phlebotomist or a lab assistant. If you ever see, look up on the internet, you know, it says phlebotomy, or sometimes it doesn't even say phlebotomy, it just says lab assistant, and that's the same thing. That's what you would apply for. The only thing, like, the kind of difference is a lab assistant is more connected to, like, yeah, you can draw blood, but you'll maybe like process pee or urine and things like that. Doing more clerical things. So that's for that. So the pros and cons of phlebotomy. The pros I would start off with is it's rewarding. You do get a lot of hours, and that just also depends on where you work. So if you're working in a hospital, you're going to get a lot of hours. Me personally, I work from, well, now it's changed, but before I would work 3 12-hour shifts, 4 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. and then 1 4-hour shift, which would be 4 a.m. to 8 a.m. Now I got my shift changed, and I'm more in like the outpatient area, where I am more so processing urine, drawing blood in more of a detained area, whereas before I would be all up in the hospital, running up and down to different rooms and things like that with my cart to go and draw blood, and just dropping the specimen off at the lab and then going to do it again. So that's kind of, you can kind of see where I'm going with that. So inpatient, running up and down. Outpatient was more just so right there in that little office. So again, yeah, it is rewarding. You do get a lot of hours depending on where you work. The knowledge you will gain, honestly, since I've been working here at this hospital, I would say that my knowledge has skyrocketed. Like, you're not smarter than a doctor, but you know a lot more. Like, whereas certain tests they'll put on top of each other, whereas they can't. Like, you're basically doing the same work again, like a CMP and a BMP. Those two tests kind of go hand in hand in a sense. And certain tests you can't put with it. Like, you would have to go redraw that specimen. So learning different things like that, like when to draw a troponin, you know, knowing that CMP, or a PTT, prothymantine, y'all, I'm horrible at these names, but the little sodium citrate light blue tube, that is only lasts up to 4 hours, and it has to be discarded. So like little things like that you'll start to pick up, you know, working at a hospital, and even maybe in a doctor's office as well. But me personally, when I was working at a doctor's office before the hospital, I was gaining little experience. I mean, it was a smaller doctor's office, but it's not something compared to as it is at a hospital. But yeah, so yeah, knowledge you'll really, and then also if you're trying to go into like a medical field, like I personally would say definitely do phlebotomy if you want to become a nurse, because you'll have that down pat, even though you'll learn it in your nursing school, but you're not going to perfect it. Whereas in phlebotomy, you'll like gain it, and if you're working, especially while you're in medical school, nursing school, whatever, you'll like know little terms. It's gonna just like basically boost you as a nurse or whatever career you want to do. So yeah. Now, as far as cons, my cons are more so because of COVID right now. Because of COVID, there's a lot of people quitting. And so there's a lot of short staff at my place where I work. So there's times where I was like the only phlebotomist to 400 something beds. And that was really, really stressful. So that's something like that, like I really hated about it. But now things are kind of like, you know, picking up, so it's not as bad. But that the workload in general, whether people are quitting or not, the workload is a lot and it's extensive. Like for morning rounds, 4 a.m. to 8 a.m. you have to have, everything has to be done. All things have to be like drawn, like whether it's 30 or 60 patients that you have in that one sitting or 4 hours. And it has to be within like by 7:30, everything has to be drawn, dropped off to the lab, processed and resulted for the doctors for them to come in. So things like that being like kind of be time managed and stuff like that stuff is like really nerve-wracking in a sense. But you know, with more practice you'll get into it or whatever. So that could be a pro or a con at the same time. The workload, because of COVID right now, we go into COVID rooms. Right now the nurses are supposed to, but when they lack in knowing how to draw, we have to go up there and draw the blood for them. So right now that would be like a con to me. Yeah, so that's like kind of like my pros and cons. Like I personally feel like it is a good career to go into, especially if you're trying to like further it, which will kind of lead me into my next section, is as far as like the money aspect. Personally, I don't think that financially you should go into this career. It's not going to be like making you big bank or money like crazy or anything like that. It's not something that's going to be like, oh, you're going to be making that money or anything like that. You're going to make money. It's going to be pretty good money, but it's not going to be something where it's just like you would make as a nurse or anything like that. Like as far as like how much you make, let's see. The start off, I did look this up, as well as from my experience, the start off pay could be anywhere from $12 to $15, and then even going up could be from $15 to $18. So you have a window of 12 to 18, and that's kind of like where you'll be at, depending on where you live, like what state, as well as you know, what place you work at. Maybe like a different hospital, they may pay even more than that. It's different state. Maybe California may be paying over like $20, or even New York may be paying like 20 something dollars an hour for individuals. Me, I live in Florida, so you know, 18, 12, that's like the little mark for us, which is good, you know, because I don't have any responsibilities right now. So it's like I still am able to like pay my bills and do what I got to do and kind of do things of that nature. But as far as money, like if you're looking to like, oh, they're gonna make big bucks, that's not something that you should be looking into if that's the career you're talking about. Me personally, I got my license when I was in high school. It was a program through so it was like I went to Union Grove, and then they had, throughout the years I would take healthcare classes, and then the finishing of it, like the last year, senior year of high school, they offered you like a program, different little things or whatever, like a certificate or this or that. And I went into the phlebotomy, where I can come out with a license, and my ultimate goal was to work in that job while in college. So you know, everything was just kind of like set up for me perfectly. So I did that. I passed the class, got my certificate, and I had basically my certificate, my license or whatever. And so after that, like I lived in Atlanta for about a year or so, and then I ended up moving to Florida. Personally, I tried, like even before graduating high school, I was like applying for jobs. I already had my certificate at that point, but I was applying for jobs and doing this and doing that, trying to see if I can volunteer, like all of that good stuff. Nothing was working. I mean, me personally, I think the reason why I didn't get a job there is because of timing and God and stuff like that. God knew that I was going to be moving. So, you know, there was no point of me getting a job if I was just going to quit it like a couple months later. But obviously I didn't know that. So, you know, scratch all that. So I moved, and then it still was like about another whole year, you know, here in Florida, where I was jobless of from that stuff. So like I was working at like Sam's Club, places like that. So like when I first moved here, I worked at Sam's Club for about a year, and then I went off to school to Orlando, and I still couldn't find anything. It was only until I came back to Tampa from Orlando and went to USF where I started finding jobs. But even then, like I was still applying and still looking. So was it a year? Last year, in October is when I first started like getting the experience. I had went for because I kept getting cold, and it just was like, my doctor wanted to know why my hemoglobin was this and all of that. So I went to a oncologist to find out like if I was anemic or something like that. And so she basically said that I wasn't anemic or anything like that, but I started getting talking. He started asking me like, what are you doing in school, and and I was telling him I had my license but had no experience. And so he basically, out of the kindness of his heart, thank you so much, I love him so much for that, took me under his wing, and I was able to get my experience through him. I worked there for about 6 months, and then COVID hit, and then I had to get laid off. It's a blessing and a curse at the same time. So even working at that doctor's office, I wasn't getting that much experience. So I'm going to talk about that, the difference between hospitals and doctor's offices, and all that good stuff, and later on in this video. But for right now, yeah, so I ended up being out of a job for only 1 month. And throughout that month, once I knew that I was getting let go, actually, no, I was applying for jobs even before I got let go, because I didn't even know I was getting let go, but I wanted to get more experience, so I was applying for hospitals. I finally spoke with somebody, and I got an interview at the hospital while working there, and then they told me about 2 weeks later saying that I got laid off. And then about a week later, they called me saying, hey, we just need you to fill out the background check and this and that and all that crazy stuff. And it took about 5 weeks in order for me to finally get hired at the job. But that's just the process of that hospital. It might be for all hospitals, I'm not sure, but it was really extensive. So I had the job but didn't even know I had the job. It was just a lot of what was going on. So I finally get to the hospital, and I'm like noticing that there's a lot more experience in the hospital compared to a doctor's office and stuff like that. So that's where we're at right now. I work at the hospital, and I personally love it. I love the fact that it is fast paced, because I don't like slow paced, because it makes the day go on longer and stuff like that. So I like that. I love sticking people. I love not like, hurting them, but like, it's just because the task is like kind of just so easy, and it's like addicting in a sense. Like, it's like, wow, they got good veins, and it's like a quick task. It's not like something that's like overly extensively, like a crazy doctor who has to like, insert this and that. No, nothing like that. It's a pretty easy, nice, chill task that you do pretty much repetitively throughout the day. So that's why I enjoy what I do. Me personally, I feel like I would definitely recommend anybody to do this career, especially if you're trying to further your career. Maybe like you're trying to do nursing or something like that, or medical assistant or something of that nature. I would recommend doing this. Now there's 2 different ways that you can kind of achieve that. You could actually go and get your license. I think that takes up to about 4 to 8 months, and even up to a year to actually get that license. But I think it just depends on what school, how fast you're doing in that school, yeah. Or you can kind of do a different route. There's a place called One Blood, where they train you. They pay you for training. It's training about like 4 weeks. And after they train you, you basically get hired with them, and you work on a bus. They have extensive hours, but that's pretty much just like what a hospital is. But you do make money, and it is the same thing, and you can get your license through them. So if you're right now in like a situation where you can't find a job, this and that, even if you do have your license, I would try to go look them up and see if they're hiring. Right now, I know for a fact everybody is hiring for phlebotomists because of this COVID stuff going on. So try to hurry up and get your foot out of there. I mean, pretty much anything and anybody in the medical field. If you're in the medical field, they're looking for people. So any and everybody is welcomed. One thing I would say about this, like even with like the school aspect of this, personally, when I was learning it and stuff like that, it was easy peasy. Like, you know, it wasn't something that's like strategic, you know, like anatomy, you know, we're nursing and this, you got so many different things and medicines and all that. No, it's nothing like that. Like, you're learning about this arm and pretty much the anatomy of this section of the arm, you know, certain things that may cause, you know, things that go wrong while drawing blood and stuff like that, you know, stuff like that. Like, it's not like really crazy or anything like that. You're learning basic tests. And yeah. Alrighty, so the next bullet point that I have is the places where phlebotomists normally work or are able to work. You can work at doctor's offices, depending. Most people want like a medical assistant, but they still hire phlebotomy. You know what I'm trying to say? So a doctor's office, a hospital, American Red Cross, community blood banks like CSL, plasma, and stuff like that. Those places are really like in need of people. Nursing homes, you are able to work there. VA clinics, hospital, and emergency clinics. So wherever, you know, you're able to find, if they're hiring, like, just go into the website, try phlebotomy, and then try a lab assistant. Those two keywords, you know, should help you in finding what you need. And yeah, so now as far as the difference in workload between the two jobs or two different places, like a hospital setting compared to a doctor's office like setting, whew, y'all. So in the hospital, phlebotomists are mostly on their feet 24/7, up until you take a break or like a 15 or something like that. When I'm at work, I'm always on my feet. Now, we used to work at a doctor's office, like, the difference is I was pretty much on my sitting down more than I was on my feet, only because it wasn't a drive for, we didn't have a lot of customers coming in because it was a smaller practice. Two, because it is a doctor's office and it wasn't really like something like, oh, so many blood draws. It was just like, hey, they need blood, can you come and do this real quick? So like, I was a phlebotomist and like a front desk area type person. So that's kind of how that worked. Not saying that's what it's going to be like in general, but like, you know, even like outpatient is different from inpatient. Inpatient, which is inside of the hospital where you're going to each and every, you know, bedroom or whatever, and drawing blood from like multiple different patients and stuff like that. So you're always on your feet. You have to move quickly pretty much because some tests are like time tests. You get what I'm trying to say? Like the PTT and what's it called? Vancomycin. That's tested every 6 hours, and they need that test resulted in order for them to start medication, like the heparin drip or, you know, Vanco. So like that's kind of like, ooh, you know. Also, like, there's a lot more testing and tests going on in the hospital compared to a doctor's office where you're drawing like a couple tests, like maybe like a HIV or, you know, a bleeding time, or maybe like a CBC, checking their hemoglobin, cholesterol with the CMP, those types of tests. You can kind of like even find out what you want to do in life, like maybe like a different career. Like if you're just trying to get your foot into the door of like the medical field, like, you know, you want to be a doctor, you know, you want to be like a nurse, this will kind of put you there because you're on pretty much everywhere throughout the hospital. Like you go to the ER, you go to the OR, you go to, you know, pediatrics to go draw blood. You get what I'm trying to say? So it's just like you pretty much are everywhere. You can kind of see other job titles and what they do throughout their day, you know, to kind of compare like, oh, that's kind of nice or whatever. So that could be like a plus for you. It's a lot more stressful, I would say, compared to a doctor's office. So because the hospital is fast paced, the doctor's office is slow paced, you're more on your tippy toes, like boom, 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 boom. Like there's not like a slow day at all whatsoever at a hospital. If you think that, you're mistaken. Like, I don't know who put that in your head, but that's just not how it is. Also, like the amount of patients you'll see throughout the day. At a doctor's office, you may see, you know, the most 20 people out of that day, you know, or 25. And of that 25, not all of them are going to get stuck. So maybe only 10 of them you may stick, or 5 of them, or 15 of them, or even all of them, you know, but it's not like a constant thing, you know. With that, and the hospital setting could be more dirtier, less clean, in a sense. Depends on what hospital you're at and cleaning staff that you have. Obviously at my hospital, not saying our staff is bad at cleaning or anything like that, but their patients, they're sick, you know, they're sweaty, they're, you know, the environment is not as clean. Like, you have some people who just came in from, had a heart attack while running, you know, they're sweaty, you know, sticky, nasty and stuff like that. But if that stuff doesn't bother you, then you should be totally fine. But certain things like that, you gotta kind of like realize, like, you know, you're gonna be introduced to different smells, really different smells. You're gonna be introduced to like different situations, like, you know, people who have lost the arms, you know, there's really not much where else you can like kind of stick them, like heart situations like that. Like patients who like may have like overdosed or something like that, like you may go to ICU and they have like an overdose of alcoholism or something like that, and like patients are like kind of out of control. You know, you deal with a lot in the hospital. Like, it's seriously mind-opening, but it's not something that's like, oh, crazy, because you still, like, whatever you do, you'll still have other workers there, like a nurse. Hey, could you help me hold him down? Could you help me, you know, could you assist me? You know, always just ask for help, you know, in those type of situations. So it's not that bad. Alrighty, so some duties of a phlebotomist, or all duties of a phlebotomist, can include preparing patients for a blood draw. So like, you know, sitting them down, you know, getting them ready, putting a tourniquet on and stuff like that. Making sure all correct supplies are available and organized. So like, you may have to like stock some of the stuff. It depends on like, you know, what your place requires and who is assigned to what job or whatever. So obviously applying a tourniquet, finding veins, performing the draw of venipuncture, collecting and labeling blood specimens, transferring blood from the samples to the lab, maintaining safety precautions, and using proper sterilization techniques. That's really not a lot. Like, it's when you do it, it doesn't seem like a lot, but when you think about it, it is a lot. You know, it is like a lot to it. There's a lot to learn, you know, because certain patients, you can't stick them on certain arms because of cancer, and then you're only stuck to one arm, and in that arm they like have the worst veins ever, you know. So it's just strategic, and it just takes a lot of experience. But don't take that as, oh, I don't think I can do this. You can do anything in general as long as you practice and just do your research on it and keep kind of, you know, practicing at it type thing. Alrighty, so this is pretty much to answer questions as far as people who already have their license or are getting their license, or in the middle of license, or right before their license, or whatever, and just trying to see if, you know, like what it's like to like work in the actual hospital and stuff like that, in the work field. Me personally, like, I was super duper scared once I got my license, and was scared because I felt like I didn't know what I was doing, even though like I didn't know what I was doing. Like, I was like, you know, I know I'm supposed to do this and I know how to do it, but like I hope they don't expect me to like, you know everything. If you feel that way, it's okay, just leave it alone. It's not even like that serious, because once you get a job, they're required to train you on what you're doing. Regardless, even with nurses and doctors, yeah, you may know the information a little bit, you may know how to do it a little bit, but you cannot really practice without, you know what I'm saying, or you can't really start working there until they train you on exactly what you're supposed to be doing. So, with that being said, you don't have to worry about like, you know, any of that stuff. Like, they're not gonna be like drilling you. Like, even working at the hospital, I was like, yeah, I got some experience, but girl, like, I was like, not really like, you know, knowing like that. So yeah, the only thing I would say is just making sure that you know how to stick, but you will progress, you know, the more and more you stick people, you know what I'm trying to say. So you don't have to worry about any of that. Like, you have over 60 people pretty much a day in order to learn, and by your third day of working, you should be down pack, a-okay with drawing blood. That's the only thing, you know. And then also like worrying about what test goes into what. At hospitals that have like the little requisition sheets or the orders that you go with to go draw blood, and on those orders are going to say like a CBC or CMP, and below that's going to tell you what color tube it goes in. So you are straight, period. Like, you don't have to worry about any of that stuff. Like, I just want you guys to just breathe now. You get what I'm trying to say? Like, you guys have this under control. Like, get through the class, graduate. If you are already graduating, apply for these jobs. That's the only thing I would say. And there's a lot of videos and there's a lot of tests to look up. You could just look up a general thing and look up the basics. Maybe I'll do a video on that, the basic tests and stuff like that. If you guys want to see something like that, definitely go ahead and tell me down below. Give this video some thumbs ups, because I need to know, you know, your feedback about, like, you know, what you guys want to see more of. So this is pretty much it for the video. I'm so glad I'm able to come to you guys once again and bring you guys some information that I hope will enable you guys to do better in life and be better in life. So yeah, thanks so much for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. I love you guys. Stay tuned to the next one.